All right, going live.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Hayden Island Marine Drive Community Work Group, which is part of the Interstate Bridge Replacement Project. It is September 27th at 4:31, and we're so glad you are here today. The next slide, please. My name is Sam Imperati, and I will be your facilitator this evening. So on the screen now, we have notations that this is closed captioned in English and Spanish. And English closed captions are available within Zoom and on YouTube. And all of you can please follow this link to review both the English and Spanish captions in a separate browser window. And that browser window for both is ibr.news/captions. Again, ibr.news/captions, CAPTIONS. The next slide will tell us how to access those closed captions. And usually at the bottom middle of your screen, you should see a menu of options. If you can't see the menu, hover your mouse over it in the middle of the screen and it should pop up for you. And then you'll see a CC, a closed caption box, which we've circled on the screen to give you a visual cue. And that you click on that icon, and a separate window with captions will appear. Next up, we have instructions for Zoom participation. And we're so pleased to be able to have ASL interpretation available for you tonight. Please join the audio by either phone or computer, but not both, because we'll get that feedback or reverberation. We encourage participants to turn on your video. If you've joined by phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. And after invited to speak, please dial *6 to unmute yourself. And also, if you are present as part of the CWG, you can also raise your hand by clicking on the reaction button, that smiley face with the plus sign over the top. But we'd like you to keep your cameras on so we can see you. Please keep your audio on mute when you're not speaking, again, for that feedback. If you have any technical difficulties, please use the Zoom chat feature, or you can call us directly at 360-329-6744, 360-329-6744. It's next my pleasure to introduce to you to Mr. Greg Johnson. He's the IBR program administrator, and he's going to give us a few words before we get started. Mr. Johnson, take it away.
Thank you, Sam. So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for volunteering your time to help us dig deeper into the issues surrounding aspects of the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program. So you are the second working group to be kicked off. So last week, the working group on active transportation met, and soon we will have a working group on downtown Vancouver, as well as the commuter experience through this corridor. So the purpose of these groups are to take a deeper dive, to have community members come and reflect to us what they think is important about a specific topic that we are asking you about. And tonight is about Hayden Island and Marine Drive. And it's one of the key critical features on this program. So questions about whether there should be a full interchange maintained off of Interstate 5, or should there be a partial interchange, or should there be a interchange off of, or a local access off of Marine Drive? So these are all important questions that we want to hear from community members to give us input to help us reach decisions as we are looking to put forward the IBR solution sometime in January. So this is important business. And once again, I thank you so much for giving up your time and a life experience to help us get to some answers that we are looking for. So once again, thank you. I'll be listening for a little bit and then I will leave and let you guys do your business. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. The next slide we're going to show you gives you an overview of today's agenda, and you received a copy of that agenda via email, and it's also listed on the slide above as a reminder so we can focus in on what we're going to be discussing today. As usual, we'll have some introductions and the constitutionally required icebreaker for all public meetings. And we'll talk about meeting agreements and goals and review the community working group framework and roles. Specifically, we're going to review existing conditions, previous planning work, what's changed, and talk a little bit about community values in that context, as they are so important as a focal point for our discussions. We're going to review some current design concepts. As Mr. Johnson indicated, we'll talk about the full, half, or no interchange. There's some potential differing interchange landing locations and some local access bridge connections. Next meeting, so you know what we're doing today and what we're doing on October 20th. On the October 20th meeting, we're going to review more specific design options, some transit access, and the community integration throughout the process. So our goal at the macro level today is to really understand our group's roles, commitments, and values, to understand all that previous work, and to share, most importantly, your reactions, feedback, and questions and suggestions. As Mr. Johnson indicated, that's our work, and the project wants to hear from you. Consistent with that, we have some meeting agreements that we all discussed during our orientation meeting. And we like to lead off with those as a reminder, because they are so important for collaboration. And the first one is put relationship first, because at the end of the day, we're all in this community together, and we are responsible for making it the wonderful place it is to live and enjoy for each of us. The goal, of course, is to keep focused on our common goals, to notice the power dynamics in the room and be conscious of those facts, and make room and space for everyone else. It's so important to listen, and to listen for agreement, not just listen for disagreement, which so often happens in these kinds of circumstances. But we are confident that we're going to create a space, and with your goodwill and insight and lived experiences, create a space for those multiple truths and norms. We will be kind and brave in this challenging environment, and we will continue to practice examining our racially biased systems and processes, and make sure that this process doesn't repeat the harms of the past. And we're going to look for learning as individuals and as a group going forward. The next up is the community working group member introductions. And we want to take a moment for all of you to introduce yourself to the group. Some of you were at the orientation. Not all of you could make it, and we have new folks here today. I think it's important, if we're looking at each other as individuals, that we should get to know each other. So we're going to ask you to please state your name, and if you are representing a particular organization on the working group, to list your affiliation, and then let us know what is the one word that best describes your hope for this project. And all that is going to be captured, and we'll put together that word cloud to share after everyone has introduced themselves. So again, I'll model or take the lead on this particular format. My name is Sam Imperati. I'm an IBR facilitator, and my word for the project is completion. And I say that because I actually was the facilitator for the governor's bi-state task force 20 years ago that looked at this interstate bridge. So I'm coming a full circle here. So again, your name, if there's an organizational affiliation, and that one word that best describes your hope for going forward. So let me go to the list here in no particular order. I will call on you and ask you to do that. And let's start off with Fred Jubitz.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The one, I'm the owner of Jubitz Truck Stop, and we've been there for, since 1960, serving the interstate trucking community. And, I saw this process earlier when it was going to be activated, 10 years ago or something. And I'm mostly concerned with accessibility for big trucks into North Portland or into that particular region. There are a lot of trucking companies there, anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 trucks a day come into our facility alone. And I just want to make sure that it's we can access it well and don't have too many stoplights and stop signs to get there. So
thanks, Fred. And what I'm going to ask you all to do is, if those of you who are active members of the CWG and on the call, if you could just rename yourself by hovering over your picture, clicking on the right and putting CWG in front of your name. And that way I can call on those folks. And while you're doing that, the next up will be Amy, and please just your name, your affiliation, and the one word. We'll have time to fully explore all this and your motivations when we get into those breakout rooms.
Okay, my name is Amy Cooney, and I live on Marine Drive. So I'm a Marine Drive resident, and I'm also part of the East Columbia neighborhood. And my one word for this would be safety, because our Marine Drive can be very busy and very unsafe. So that's my word.
Thanks so much. Corky Collier.
I'm Corky Collier with the Columbia Corridor Association. I think my one word would probably be relief.
Ah, well said. All right. Eric Molander. Eric Molander. We'll come back to Eric. How about Tom Hickey?
You need to be able to unmute me.
Ah, well,
is that better?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks so much. It can always be so fun.
Very good. Thank you. My name is Eric Mullinger. I live in the Bridgeton neighborhood, Portland's fastest growing neighborhood. And I'm on the Bridgeton Neighborhood Association. And if I have one word for my hope, it is partnership.
Great. Thanks so much for that contribution, Eric. Did I get Tom Hickey?
You certainly can. My name is Tom Hickey. I am also on the Bridgeton Neighborhood Association. I'm the current chair. I also work on the Citizens Advisory Group for the bridge, representing the North Portland neighborhoods. And my one word would be community.
Great. Thank you so much. Ellen Churchill.
Yeah, I'm Ellen Churchill, and I'm representing the Hayden Island Neighborhood Network. And I live on Hayden Island and have for almost 20 years. And one word is tough, because I like the words. I like all the words you've said, certainly safety and relief. How can I say alleviate congestion? We can't get on the freeway to get groceries a lot of times during the day. So
Well,
I don't know what that is.
You did a good job. I'll give you extra credit for 2 words, alleviate congestion. That's
All right.
perfectly appropriate here. Is there a Joseph?
Would that be me, Joey?
I'll take Joey for 200, Alex.
All right. My name is Joey Smith, and I'm a business owner, and I live on Hayden Island. And probably my one word would be accessibility.
Welcome. Greetings. And my screen is kind of freezing up here, so please forgive me. Is there a Catherine Wheeler?
Yes, I'm here. My name is Catherine Wheeler. I'm representing Jansen Beach Moorage on Hayden Island. I've lived here for 7 years. And I agree with Joey. My word was going to be access.
Perfect. Thanks so much. How about Kurt? Kurt Red?
Yes, my name's Kurt Red. I represent Diversified Marine. And I guess my one word would be solution.
Perfect. Thank you. Michael Strauss?
Yes, hello. Hello,
Hey.
everyone. My name is Michael Strauss. I am representing Kimco Realty. We own the Jensen Beach Center, the 67-acre, 700,000 square foot shopping center on Hayden Island. And my word, I'm going to play off of Catherine, Joey, and Fred, who started us off. I'll stay with access. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You'll have to pay them a royalty for using their words. So I just we'll bill you afterwards. I hope you have Venmo so we can get you going. Let's see, Robin Smith.
Hi, I'm Robin Smith. I've lived on Hayden Island for 11 years on a floating house. And my one word is hope.
Perfect. How about Ryan?
Hello, my name is Ryan Webb. I'm the engineering and planning manager for the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, and this area is our ceded lands. So I think if you don't object too much, I might to use 2 words, which would be cultural preservation.
Perfect, and congratulations on the Oregon City and the Willamette Falls project.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Let's see, it keeps bouncing on me here, so I apologize. Let's see, Terry Glenn.
Yes, I'm Terry Glenn. I am manager of Columbia Way West Marina on the Oregon side of the channel. I guess my one word would be efficiency.
Great, welcome, and thank you so much for attending. How about Tom Dana?
My name is Tom Dana, and I live in the manufactured home community on Hayden Island. And a dozen years ago, I was very active in the Columbia River Crossing project and attended many meetings on that. So what I'm worried about is that it'll be a disaster again, like that one was. Just by disaster, I mean it'll split the island and ruin the island as far as the peaceful way of living. So I'm not sure I can get that boiled down to one word, but preservation. Let's use that word.
Let's go with preservation. That's great. Thank you. Tom O'Connor?
Yeah, Tom O'Connor. I'm a resident of Floating Home on Hayden Island. I work in Vancouver, but I'm often in Portland, so go north and south. My one word would be resilience. When this whole thing is said and done and the earth shakes, I want it to still be standing.
Good, thank you. And I'm sorry because of the name, but is it Vic Smith or Vicky Smith? Vic Smith or Vicky Smith?
Vicky's part of our program team, Sam.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone on the CWG that I missed? Please unmute yourself and let us know you're here.
This is Dave Januzzi.
Hey, Dave.
I live on Hayden Island. I'm handicapped. I've been active in transportation issues for the last 20 years. I'm not really impressed with the idea that we're starting out basing everything on something that failed 10 years ago. And I think flexibility would be my word.
Thank you. Flexibility and there's always hope for the future when people of good faith like here come together to move forward. We do have a few key staff joining us for today's meeting, and they will be making a presentation shortly. And they are Brad Phillips and Tom Bennett, an engineer and a planner that will help us with that. And I also want to thank the 8 agencies who are part of the IBR program partners. We've got C-Trans, TriMet, City of Vancouver, City of Portland, RTC, Metro and the Port of Portland, and the Port of Vancouver. Many are in attendance tonight to help support the conversation. Going to the next slide, we have the community group framework. This is a reminder of, again, what we talked about the orientation meeting. As you are aware, we have 4 particular groups. We have an active transportation group, a downtown Vancouver group, our group, Hayden Island Marine Drive group, and a multi-motor commuter group. The participants of the CWG include at-large community members, organizational stakeholders that can provide insight on specific topics. You all, CAG members, participate on these work groups, and you provide that direct linkage to relay perspectives and considerations in the specific areas. And as we mentioned, each group will meet twice in this year, once today, and then once next month. Currently, we don't anticipate any additional meetings to reconvene and going forward. And as Tom Hickey indicated, he's our community advisory group member on the Hayden Island, and that's part of that linkage that makes it so important. So we have that communication going in both directions. As a reminder for the role of the community working group, the role of the community working group would be the next slide, please. And thank you for that. And the program receives the community feedback in a variety of ways. We've got surveys, we've got listening sessions, direct mail, comments, and community presentations. And the CWG, its use is just one method and a very important one. The program is utilizing to solicit meaningful feedback from the community members. The Hayden Island Marine Drive specific focus is to provide that feedback on the interchanges and connections to the interstate bridge, including potential design concepts. And that feedback informs program staff and will be shared as the community input to the IBR decision makers. And that feedback, especially yours, is also presented to the advisory groups and partners and the legislators. We also want to refresh you as to the program timeline, which is the next slide. And we want to recognize the good work that was created through the previous planning efforts, CRC. We want to utilize past work that still meets the purpose and needs of the project, analyze what has changed, and update the design options accordingly. This community engagement through the CWG is a critical throughout the entire process. And later in the fall, we'll be conducting a broader community engagement effort seeking feedback on design concepts. And those methods will include the online open house, briefings, and public surveys. So now through November, the project is going to update that information and analyze what's changed, develop preliminary design concepts, make sure that we've embedded equity and climate considerations within those concepts, finalize some screening criteria to methodically evaluate design concepts, and engage in that important two-way dialogue with community sharing preliminary design concepts moving forward. Next up, we have got some opportunities here to look at the previous planning work, what's changed in design concepts, and I'm going to turn it over to Brad Phillips and Tom Bennett from the program. They will introduce themselves and take it away. So Brad, Tom, welcome.
Thanks, Sam. My name is Brad Phillips. I am leading the civil design team for the program that includes highways, local streets, urban design, a lot of those civil elements. I'm Tom Bennett. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Brad. My name is Tom Bennett. I'm an urban designer and urban planner for the project, leading those aspects.
So the two of us will jointly go through these next few slides.
And before they do, I just ask all the members to please hold your questions, write a little note, put them in the comment, and when we get into the breakout rooms, you'll have an opportunity for some questions for clarification or perhaps time permitting at the end of this presentation. So we want everyone to get the same picture in an uninterrupted fashion so we're all on the same page. So take it away.
Okay. So this slide's showing us the current context. You probably don't need to be told what's in your community. You all live there. But a few things to note: that this community is very diverse with the land use that's in the area, from open space, industrial, commercial, residential, a lot of waterborne, of both business and residential. The river itself clearly is very important. And the cultural resources associated with this history of this site is very significant, and we're well aware of many sensitive elements within this area. On the Washington side, it should be noted that there is BRT on that, and the working in Vancouver. There's did I say BRT? Bus Rapid Transit. The Vine, it's operating in Vancouver. What's that?
An acronym SIN.
Exactly. Correct me when I throw those out. It's easy to do. On the Portland side, shown in yellow, is the light rail. That is the yellow line ending at Expo Center. Next slide, please. The graphic on the right is the design that was the conclusion from the previous planning studies that concluded in 2013. It is a design that gives us some good insights on a lot of information, but we are starting from that and changes that have occurred over the last 8 years and trying to define what this program is going to be. There was a lot of work done in that program, so it is a lot of information that we can start with, but we will be changing much of it to determine what this IBR program is going to be. Some of the notable changes since 2013, and let me orient us a little bit. On the very upper part of the page is the Columbia River crossing, and you just barely see a small piece of that. Right in the center of the screen is what we call the North Portland Harbor Bridge. And then there's two interchanges. The top one is the Hayden Island interchange. The bottom one is what we refer to as the Marine Drive interchange. So the changes since 2013, some of the notable changes is that for seismic resiliency across the corridor, we should assume that the North Portland Harbor Bridge is replaced. In this previous 2013 version, it was assumed to be retrofitted, and that in 2013, the Port of Portland was planning on doing an addition on the west side of Hayden Island, and that is no longer an assumption. And then just to the east side of I-5 on Hayden Island, there was a Safeway that was the only grocery store on the island that is now torn down, is in the process of being reconstructed as a floor and decor, which is a regional tiling and flooring center. I just want to check that I'm still being heard because my screen is doing some weird things.
You are, thank you.
Okay, thanks. There are some common design assumptions that we are assuming going forward. They are assumptions. They certainly could change with these conversations, but it is a base that we can all start thinking of to start from. The Columbia River Bridge, interstate bridge crossing the Columbia, is assumed to be replaced on the west side of the existing structure, and that's shown on the very top part of this graphic. We've heard a lot about including a local access bridge between Hayden Island and the North Portland community. And in the center of the screen, that's shown on the left side crossing the North Portland Harbor. And that is intended to provide better community access between Hayden Island and the communities on North Portland Harbor. There's assumed to be a shared use path crossing the Columbia on the bridge, and that would connect to the 40-mile loop and other trail systems within Portland, as well as connections onto Hayden Island. And that would go along with local pedestrian and bicycle improvements and both the Marine Drive side and the Hayden Island side to connect to our infrastructure, connect across the corridor, connect into that shared use path. So that's all an assumed part of what this program would do. Skipping down to the bottom bullet there's going to be some form of connecting transit between the light rail and the Vine with a transit station on Hayden Island. The specifics of transit will be discussed in other community group meetings. Moving on to community values and priorities. We've heard that access and mobility is very important. Safety, property and land use compatibility. What we mean there is being sensitive to what properties are going to be impacted by this program, but also understanding how this project can be compatible with future land uses and redevelopment, and making sure that we're building something that is going to be usable and connectable to the communities. Natural resources and cultural heritage is extremely important. And this program is incorporating a lens of equity and climate into how we're defining it, and how those change this project are very important. We want to hear from you about those. So it's a very big overview, very high level overview, and we want to hear more from you this evening on what is important to you. Next slide. So specifically tonight's topics, this does touch a lot of different places and communities, we want to know how the project can better integrate with and support the visions of those places in these communities. And not only by touching physically, but also how it could be influenced by what we do to adjacent communities that aren't necessarily right next to it. And so tonight we're going to explore these topics and how they relate to one another. And just to note, none of this has been decided. We're using the input we receive to help us define what options we want to look at for the IBR program. So we have 3 topics. We have topic A, which is looking at the interchange options on Hayden Island. Topic B, specific to those interchange, where on and off ramps should connect to different streets. And topic C, what does that local access bridge do when we put it into different locations? Next slide. So we've looked at 3 different functions for interchange options on Hayden Island: a no interchange, a full interchange, and a half interchange. With the no interchange, what we mean is that all access would be provided by Marine Drive ramps. So if you're exiting to Marine, or if you want to go to Hayden Island, everybody would need to go through Marine Drive and then across the local access bridge to get to Hayden Island. Opposite of that, the full interchange is there would be all regional access would be provided by I-5 ramps on Hayden Island, in addition to the interchange that is on Marine Drive. We would also assume that there's the local access bridge that would provide the local connections between Expo Road, Vancouver Way, and onto Hayden Island. In between those 2 alternatives would be a half interchange. In that configuration, there would be ramps to and from Washington to Hayden Island. But from the Oregon side, you would likely go through the Marine Drive interchange. So the challenge with that one is balancing those access going through Marine Drive with the local connections to the different communities. So next slide, Tom will get into more specifics of what I'm trying to talk about in words. Oh, sorry, I got another slide. Functions for local access bridge located. The location of that we can see either being east or west of I-5. And a common denominator is that on Hayden Island, the local access bridge would connect to Tomahawk Island Drive. And that's due to vertical clearances over North Portland Harbor to continue to provide the marine access under the bridge. If it were on the west connection, there's 2 different ways we could connect. One would be to connect to Expo Road with a Marine Drive underpass. And that would be coupled with a connection along Pier 99 Street to the Bridgeton neighborhood and a connection to Vancouver Way. Or the local access bridge could connect directly to Marine Drive at an intersection. And that would be able to provide both regional and local access from I-5, but through the Marine Drive and MLK Street. The other option would be locate the local access bridge east of the existing bridge. And in that configuration, it would connect to Bridgeton by Vancouver Way and MLK Boulevard. Next slide. Now I'll let Tom talk in a little bit more specifics.
All right, thank you, Brad. What we'll do is we'll walk through these three topics, the interchanges, the ramp locations, and the bridge locations. In a way, the hope is to make these very complex pieces that all kind of wind and weave together a little bit easier to understand, but keeping in mind that they're all related to one another. And so none of these pieces exist kind of by themselves, and I'll attempt to explain those as we move through these. So as we start with the no interchange on Hayden Island, the idea in here is that the freeway interchange would be located on the, at the Marine Drive interchange in North Portland on the south side of the harbor. And traffic, you would access Hayden Island via two local access bridges. So no interchange on Hayden Island, two local access bridges that come directly off that interchange and would land in the center of the island with an extension of Tomahawk Island Drive that would go up the center of the island, so connecting the east side and the west side. Now, those two bridges, because there's no interchange on the island, they actually end up serving two different functions. They're both the local access, which we'll talk about the local access bridge later, but they also function essentially as an extension of the interchange. And so one of the issues that we've been looking at here is, while this drastically reduces the amount of area on the island that the highway infrastructure would take up, it really becomes problematic because of the amount of traffic that both of those bridges have to carry, not only the local access coming onto the island, but all of the freeway access as well. In addition to that, it would require two signals at the Marine Drive interchange as well, as opposed to one. And some of the other options have two signals as well, but with this particular option, as we studied it, you would need two traffic signals on the Marine Drive MLK Boulevard corridor. And next slide, please. So now we'll go to the full interchange on Hayden Island, and this is kind of the opposite of this, which is like today, both traffic coming and going from the north and traffic coming and going from the south can both get on and off onto Hayden Island. So the regional access from both north and south would be provided on the island. The traffic circulation coming off of those ramps would be on multiple streets, likely Hayden Island Drive to the north and Jansen Drive to the south. And because you would have a full interchange on the island, it would require a larger footprint, a larger land area, and a larger land impact. Next slide, please. So the half interchange is a way to look at how could we split the difference? How could we put some of the traffic getting on and off the island on the island, and some of that traffic coming on and off the island from the Marine Drive interchange? And so what this is showing is that direct access from the freeway, from I-5 onto Hayden Island, would be traffic coming from the north or getting onto I-5 going northbound, whereas south access would.
Tom, you went mute on us. Tom?
The two dashed lines here going across North Portland Harbor represent the two possible locations where that local access bridge could be, and it would be one of the two that were shown on the no interchange example.
Hey, Tom. Tom,
the advantage. Yeah.
Tom, a quick timeout. We lost your connection there a little bit, so if you could just rewind the tape about 23.9 seconds and start, we'll be on the same page again.
Okay, maybe I'll pick up at the local access bridges.
Perfect.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay, so the two dashed lines here are showing where the possible locations for the local access bridge would be, and that bridge would basically be responsible not only for local access onto the island, but from the traffic coming from the south or leaving to the south, getting off at Marine Drive interchange and using that bridge to access the island. One of the advantages of the half interchange option is that it would require less land on Hayden Island for the highway infrastructure, and so therefore you would have a smaller footprint, fewer ramps. There's only 2 ramps as opposed to 4, and those ramps would come down on one of the possible east-west streets on Hayden Island. And next slide, please. Okay, now we'll talk about ramp locations. And what we mean by this is when the ramps are coming off the freeway or going onto the freeway, where do they touch down on the island? What street, what east-west street on Hayden Island will they connect to? And the reason we want to talk about this is so that you understand that the street that would have the freeway access would generally have more traffic volume, because this street will be handling the regional traffic coming and going from the freeway. But it will also have the most direct connection to I-5. So whichever street those ramps end up being on is the street that would be the logical arrival and departure point from the island. Those streets, those east-west streets that would not have ramps on them would provide the local connectivity crossing the island. So that would be focused more on pedestrians, bicycles, and local automobile travel. And so the three options for where these ramps could land on the island are Jansen Drive on the south, a new extended Tomahawk Island Drive that would go underneath I-5 and connect the east side to the west side, or Hayden Island Drive on the north side, which would likely only be used in the case of a full interchange design. Next slide, please. So the first one we have here is the ramps coming down onto Jansen Drive on the south end of the island. That's where the kind of higher volumes of regional traffic would land on the island in this case. That traffic coming from the north or going to the north. And then local traffic would happen on the extended Tomahawk Island Drive and Hayden Island Drive, both to the north of that. Traffic coming from the south or going to the south would then use that local access bridge coming across the island. Next slide, please. So this one shows the ramps on Tomahawk Island Drive, which would be the new extension of that coming up the center of the island from east to west. And what that would do is, again, the traffic coming from the north or going to the north would use Tomahawk Island Drive to access that. That could go directly into the Jansen Beach Center or directly into to the neighborhood on the east side. And then that would put the local traffic circulation on the outsides of the island. So on the north side at Hayden Island and on the south side at Jansen Drive. Next slide, please. Okay, sorry, I had a little bit of a lag there. Okay, and so finally, this is showing the ramps as a full interchange that happened both on Jansen Drive and Hayden Island Drive. So in this full interchange option, the northbound traffic coming from the north would come down onto Jansen Drive or leave from Jansen Drive, and traffic coming from the south or going southbound would use Hayden Island Drive as an access for this. What this does is it does allow Tomahawk Island Drive to be that neighborhood local connection between the east and west sides. But one difference here is that the size of a full interchange on the island would make that Tomahawk Island Drive crossing underneath the highway infrastructure a much larger. There's much more highway infrastructure above Tomahawk Island Drive in this particular scenario. Next slide, please. And now we'll look at the local access bridge location. And as mentioned before, this could either be on the east or west sides of I-5. On the west side, it could either, there could be an underpass to Expo Road or direct access to Marine Drive. However, this would require an additional traffic signal on Marine Drive. In addition, the island access would then land on the island on either Center Avenue or Tomahawk Island Drive. On the east side, the access would be to Marine Drive, It would provide more direct access to Bridgeton. And again, the island landing for that bridge would be on Tomahawk Island Drive. Next slide, please. So in this example, we have the Marine Drive, the local access bridge on the west side going underneath Marine Drive. So this would be an underpass. It would connect to Expo Road. And that would allow you to circulate around the Expo Center to Marine Drive or continue southbound on Expo Road. There could also be an underpass connection from that local access bridge under I-5 where Pier 99 Street is today. And that could connect in with Marine Drive, the Marine Drive that runs along Bridgeton, as well as Vancouver Way, and connect into MLK and Marine Drive via an interchange to the east side of I-5. Next slide, please. So this version of the local access bridge being on the west side now looks at the idea of having it come directly into Marine Drive at a signalized intersection. So the other components on Hayden Island are the same. This one just says in an option where the Marine Drive interchange would have two signals, the local access bridge could directly access Marine Drive. But that is a two-signal solution in order for that to happen. Next slide, please. And then finally, looking at the local access bridge on the east side of I-5, again, connecting with Tomahawk Island Drive, running up the center of Hayden Island from east to west. There's a direct Bridgeton connection that connects into the local Marine Drive as well as Vancouver Way, and an interchange that connects it with the west portion of Marine Drive as well as MLK Boulevard. And that would all happen, all those connections would basically happen to the east side of I-5. And next slide, please.
No, I'll stay there for a second, Tom. Go back one slide. Thanks so much. Tom and Brad, thank you. We have 7 minutes for questions for clarification. We understand that these are broad concepts. We understand that it takes a bit of time to look at these and consider all the ramifications. We're going to have opportunities to do that in the breakout rooms and when we come back together from those breakout rooms. But we think it would be helpful to get any questions for clarification on the table so everyone has a common understanding. Now, the one thing about questions for clarification that some groups do is that the questions really are statements of advocacy in the form of a question mark. And we all respect your abilities and rights and hope to hear for your points of view. But we're going to just reserve that until we get into the breakout rooms. So one question that we got from Amy Cooney, directed at Tom and or Brad, she's wondering if there's been traffic impact models on these different choices. And for example, where would potential backups occur with each choice? So to the extent either Tom or Brad need to go back to and show us a slide to give context, that would be great. To the extent you can answer that question without it, that's fine too.
So I'll answer that question. This is Brad. We need to be able to define very clearly what each option looks like and specifically where every connection is before we can run traffic analysis. So we're not prepared for that yet. And we're using this meeting to help us understand what all of those connections really need to be. And once we do have those, then we'll be able to run traffic analysis and be able to report out that level of detail. So that is going to come in a few months when we'll have that added level of detail.
Great. The next question we have is from Tom Hickey. How do the various options affect the elevation the throughway.
Tom, this is Brad again. Can I ask you what you mean by the throughway?
Well, I mean, the main bridge arcing over Hayden Island is going to be affected, obviously, by whether there's roads traveling under it or not, and whether the various options have an effect on the overall elevation of the bridge.
Okay, so I would interpret that to be if Tomahawk Island Drive connects underneath I-5, how does that affect the elevation of I-5?
That seems to be the main issue, yeah.
Because Jansen and Hayden Island Drive are already there. So for Tomahawk, we need to provide the vertical clearance for trucks and delivery trucks and things like that, right? So we also don't particularly want Tomahawk Drive to be below water table and be the low point of the island because it makes drainage difficult. So we would come to the conclusion or the recommendation anyway, that if Tomahawk is there, I-5 would need to be at a higher elevation in order to get Tomahawk to cross under it.
Any follow-up, Tom?
No, that's good
no,
for
I think
now.
that covers it.
Oh,
Okay, thanks.
Oh,
Tom, I'll use your last names because we have two Toms. I apologize for not seeing that. We have a comment from Robin Smith. Not surprisingly, like all of us, this is confusing as to the options and how the various pieces fit together, and would like to see the materials in advance, and still concerned that things will be confusing in the breakout rooms. And we will certainly let you know that this is just very, very preliminary stuff. You will have an opportunity, the breakout rooms, to dive in, and we will do our best to lay these out for you in advance next time. Ellen Churchill asked, what about the possibility of a local bridge to Vancouver? Brad, why don't you take that one?
I don't believe we've studied that in a lot of detail. There's been some other options put forth that might keep the existing bridge, which doesn't meet our seismic resiliency goals. So that is a local connection directly between Hayden Island and Vancouver has not been studied so far that I am aware of.
Great. And I'll ask again, Brad, there's a request from Tom Dana about to see the details of these options. And what do you anticipate will be you'll be able to show at the November meeting?
Was that a question? That sounded like a statement. We hope to be able to show the details at the November meeting.
Great. Well, that's a good answer.
Okay.
That's all. And then Eric is asking about what about a collector distributor double-decker bridge?
I guess it's something that we could look into. I don't want to jump to conclusions necessarily on something like that, but the challenge for us from a highway design perspective has been the proximity of all of the interchanges. And when you start splitting people out into different bridges like that, how do you get to something like SR14, which is a very high volume and an important connection? It would make, does it make it so that you have to have two ramps, one from maybe mainline I-5, one from the collector distributor? So I'm kind of jumping conclusions, but that is some of the problems, the difficulties, I should say, that we struggle with as highway designers and providing the access from different locations to those types of other locations.
And I'm going to end with two ones just for clarity only. Does the full interchange mean no local access bridge to Hayden Island? And go ahead.
No, not necessarily. The local access bridge could be included in that case with the full interchange.
And then Terry is asking, when saying access to Bridgeton, would this be a direct connection, or would Bridgeton Road remain a turnoff of Marine Drive via Gattenbein?
That level of detail needs to be more clearly defined. So that's partly what we're still working on.
And final question, do these interchanges include a way for bikes and walkers to travel?
Yes, as I stated, as a common design assumption, there will be the shared use path crossing the corridor, as well as bike and ped connections on the local streets.
Okay, thank you. So we appreciate those comments. There'll be more opportunity. We are going to take a break. We're going to take a 9-minute and 17-second break. And we're all going to be back online promptly at 5:40. So 5:40, on your mark, get set, break. So it looks like we've got Ellen, Tom, Eric, Corky, Tom Hickey and Tom Dana, Terry and Kurt and Robin. And Tom, you guys came back right on time. So you get to ask 9 extra questions at random anytime you want to during the presentation. All right, kidding aside, we had, I call your attention to the chat. Those questions are preserved and we'll make sure staff sees them as they go forward. And they're all very, very helpful. What I'd like now is to go to the next slide and set up our breakout room dance here. And there should be a slide before it. What it says on the slide is we have a Hayden Island and Marine Drive. We're going to have 2 rooms that we called an audible for when the side deck was done and in this evening. So we're going to create 2 groups. Each group is going to have a full and complete opportunity to explore all of the topics that have been discussed so far and teed up for the breakout room. And the next slide will give you a preview of what we're going to start off with in those breakout rooms. So the technical facilitators will talk to you about how do the current conditions allow you to get where you need and want to go. Can you point out and ask you if you can point out any specific cases that currently cause significant traffic flow, access, efficiency, or safety issues? And are there places you can currently can't access or want better access to? Those are going to be the 3 driving questions as we go forward. We're going to have an opportunity in those rooms to ask you in a facilitated manner each of those questions. And I think in that context, there'll be a lot of work looking at the existing conditions maps, but there might well be some opportunity to look at in response to your comments and answers, how those flashpoints might be accommodated in some of the drawings. So we're gonna be in that room until approximately 6:20. So approximately 6:20, and in a few minutes you'll be asked to go into the rooms, and we'll meet you on the other side, as they like to say. Thank you, and see you soon.
This is Tom O'Connor. I'm being invited into the wrong group. This should be Hayden Island.
They'll be talking about both topics. So they should be talking about Hayden Island and Marine Drive in either group.
So should I'm confused. Shouldn't I wait for Hayden Island, or should I go into Marine Drive even though that's not mine?
Go into the group that is prompts on your screen, and they'll be talking about both topics.
All right. So this is like A and B groups. It's not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
Terry, did you get a prompt to go into a room?
It just said, it asked me if I wanted to go in the Hayden Island group, and I said no.
Okay.
So I don't know where I am.
Let's see. We'll get you in there.
I probably should be in the Marine Drive group, but I have property on the island as well, so.
Let's see. I cannot move you there because it shows that it's still pending for you. Do you have anything on your screen asking you if you'd like to
No, I do not. Oh, here, wait a minute, here's breakout room. I've been assigned, it says breakout room. I have been assigned to Hayden Island.
Yeah, go ahead and join that. They'll be talking about both topics, so you'll get a chance to discuss both. And Andrew, do you want to join where I'm supposed to go and do Jamboard notes? I'll send you the link because I don't think I can go in as the host.
I think I don't think you need to anymore because
Lisa
Lisa's
here?
here, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Which I can't see if the time's right in the
We're still live streaming, so why don't you chat me or call me?
folks that are watching the live stream, we're coming back from our breakout rooms and getting into the room where we'll do a breakout session, a report out, and then ask some poll questions. So by a quick show of hands, all those that thought their breakout room was definitely better than the other breakout room, please raise your hand. If you all thought your breakout room was better than the other, raise your hand. All right, we have consensus and some honest people. Tom's saying he doesn't know because he wasn't there. Very good. That's very, very honest of you, Tom, and very realistic. So thank you all for your participation. What we're going to do in our remaining time here is do a report out from each room. As you know, we had talented scriveners summarizing what was said at a high level. And I will call on the other room first. I think that was Katie's room.
Yes, it was.
To share with us what's going on, or call on a member of their group to summarize. So take it away, please.
Sure. Is there anyone in our group that wanted to summarize, or would you like me to do it? I'm just going to go for it unless I see a quick hand. I see Tom saying me go. Okay. I will just caveat that by saying our group conversation as a whole, really, they responded to all three questions more or less for the entirety of the discussion. So some of the comments under any of the questions could be applied as an answer to any of the questions. But I will just kind of say a few of these to give a flavor of the conversation. How do current conditions allow you to get where you need or want to go? Marine Drive Interchange is a nightmare if you're trying to get back to Hayden Island. Why wouldn't you choose a full interchange option? Because it seems to provide the best access. The width of the bridge, potential impact of the structure would be the consideration. That was the answer response back. Interstate Avenue's best access point to attempt to get back to Hayden Island, but still not good. See incredible traffic at Marine Drive. We only take 33rd and MLK local streets between the 1:30 and 6, but we do like to go access the Hayden Island Target and Vancouver Fred Meyer. Small and large business perspective, wherever you're coming from or wherever you are going, the most efficient way is to have an interchange that provides direct access to the island. Also make sure the traffic stays contained to a certain business and doesn't overflow into surrounding neighborhoods. Marine Drive needs to be fixed in addition to Hayden Island, make the traffic flow better for both interchanges. Interested in efficiency and need direct access to and from the island. Huge backup coming out of the Port of Portland from 2:30 to 6. It's a safety concern to get, and that's accessing I-5 going either north or south. Should local access be east or west? Much more commercial activity on the west. So there was a discussion about what would potentially be more impactful to residences and businesses or commercial development. Can you go to the next question, Jennifer? I feel like I'm speed talking here. Can you point out any specific areas that currently cause significant traffic flow, access, efficiency, or safety issues? This was a theme in our conversation. Without seeing traffic numbers and data, I can't provide an educated opinion. Without this information, we're simply hearing people's opinions and anecdotes. Would like to have access directly to and from the west side of Hayden Island, closer to the development businesses. There's incredible amount of traffic on Marine Drive. This causes folks to divert. Marine Drive east of I-5 is overburdened with freight through a substantially residential district. Speeds are too high and dangerous for pedestrians. People cut across to I-205 through Bridgeton neighborhood. Would like to talk about diverting freight off from Marine Drive for eastbound freight over to Lombard any design that can encourage freight to stay on the freight routes would be welcome. That's same as another comment about basically Marine Drive not being used for its intended designated classification. Huge backup to get onto I-5 at Marine Drive. Don't support West Bridge due to current amount of traffic congestion in this vicinity. And last question. Are there places you currently can't access or want better access to? Retain access to the shopping center as quickly and efficiently as possible. Concerned with having less access. People are using Marine Drive as a cut through to access 205. We saw this during the backup. Please design to prevent this use. Need the data numbers to have informed opinion. Build the arterial bridge close to the existing bridge. Problem is local traffic getting on the freeway at too many access points. They are too closely spaced together. Transit was mentioned as a big piece of the solution to improve access to Hayden Island. There's discussion about, in this group, not much support for a no interchange or eliminating the interchange. And there was quite a bit of support in our group for a full interchange, and concern that anything less would actually reduce access to the island. There is access, oh yeah, that's that one. Recognize if the interchange is eliminated, we'll put an additional burden on the Marine Drive interchange, which is already overburdened as well. Like to see the Marine Drive interchange simplified and reduce the traffic. The biggest issue is there are too many ramps to get on the freeway, and that's what's causing the congestion, i.e. the local traffic. Accessing the freeway at too many points is conflicting with the freight use. Lastly, everyone has a lot of opinions, but those that want to eliminate an interchange are those that aren't dependent upon the access function should be the priority. Very fruitful conversation. Kudos to my group.
Wow, great stuff. Great stuff. Lisa was the keeper of all things cogent in our group. And it's amazing a lot of the similarities between the two groups. And so, Lisa, I'm going to ask you to supercharge your version because we have a lot of similarities. And that way we can get to the rest of the discussion. So take it away and enlighten us.
Thanks, Sam. There was a lot of discussion, and it was challenging to just isolate the discussion into the answers to each of the specific questions because there's a lot of flow between the three questions. So I think what makes the most sense is just to do kind of some quick highlights for each of these, recognizing the flow of the conversation wasn't isolated to question one, and then we moved to question two. So in terms of kind of the first question that Sam posed, the biggest answer was it depends on the time. And that depending on when you want to access the area, you may have more feedback in the next two slides, which is some of the issues and challenges. So I think from this particular group, separating the traffic flow seemed to be an area where there was a lot of discussion, making sure that local access continued to be prioritized. It was pretty obvious congestion does exist, and that makes it difficult to be able to get around and get where folks want to go when they want to be there. There were some positives about getting up to Vancouver from the island, in particular around Farmers Market, some of the flow, depending on, again, the time, access from I-5 to SR14. But just a lot of, I think, concern around, again, what time someone is hoping to leave or to be home may depend on, where they see some real issues. So let's go to the next one. So this was around specific areas that currently cause traffic flow, access, efficiency, or safety issues. I kind of loved the double loop from hell. Let's not build another. So just quoted because it was just such a good quote. So concerned about local access, on and off ramps don't function. They're too short. This creates a safety issue. highway times dependent. Again, this is kind of back to some of the other comments from the first question. Unsafe biking under any of the ramps and bridges, a lot of traffic congestion, short ramps. All traffic on the one bridge creates disruptive traffic flow. Just a lot of safety, congestion, trying to push a lot through what exists right now. Next slide. So this one was around places you currently can't access or want better access. We heard lots of kind of resonating responses around river access. Pedestrian access was a challenge, and then just not creating a peninsula for Bridgeton. So how does access contribute to better access or worse access, depending on what that design looks like? And then the flyover is missing for trucks to get onto I-5. So just a lot of feedback, a lot of continued comments around if you want good feedback from us, then we need materials ahead of time so that we can be ready to share our thoughts. Despite the fact that these questions were really more kind of around current experience, the group did tend to want to talk about the graphics that were shown earlier in the presentation.
And that's the perfect segue to discussing the graphics earlier and the various options. So we have set up a series of polls, and the half-formed or malformed thought du jour is to take your pulse. We are not asking for definitive conclusions and answers and suggestions. We know that this is preliminary, that this is conceptual. You know that this is was designed just to get some general impressions, your initial impressions, that the IBR team will put pen to paper over the course of the next month and fine tune a lot of this for our presentation and a more detailed and robust conversation that will happen on the 20th. So there were 3 sets of categories that we talked about in the beginning. This is the Brad and Tom show, the engineer and the planner show. We talked about interchanges, a full, a half, or no interchange. There was a discussion about landing points on which drive, and there was a discussion about what about an auxiliary bridge. So as a quick and we'll ask you questions about all 3 of those. So the first up is the 3 graphics combined into one: the no interchange, the full interchange, and the half interchange. I will look to Tom Bennett, our planner, to give us a 63-second summary of this slide to prime the pump for some initial polling of the group. So Tom Bennett, what say you?
Okay, you just want me to give a quick synopsis of each one. Is that right, Sam?
You betcha.
Okay, all right. So no interchange in the upper left. 2 bridges connecting Hayden Island to the mainland. They connect to I-5 via 2 signalized intersections at Marine Drive. And as it states, no interchange on the island. So there's more land available. Those 2 bridges land onto a new extended Tomahawk Island Drive. The full interchange option in the upper right puts the complete interchange on Hayden Island. So people coming from the north or going to the north and coming from the south can both enter and exit directly onto Hayden Island. That interchange configuration does take the most land area. Those bridges could land on the north side of the island on Hayden Island Drive, or on the south on Jansen Drive. And there would still be one local bridge connection, local access bridge connection provided as well. And then finally at the bottom is the half interchange, and that would provide on and off ramps for people coming from Washington, from the Vancouver direction, allowing them to directly access Hayden Island, and traffic coming from Portland or the south would access Hayden Island via the Marine Drive interchange, and then traveling across that local access bridge, which also could be either on the east or west side of I-5.
Perfect. Thanks so much for that. So I'm going to ask that the poll be shown. And again, please understand that all these options are still in development. As Tom Dana said, the devil is in the detail. So we have devil in detail and a double loop from hell, which is the major themes. And those all are important. We're not asking you to choose between them so much as just in the moment, which concept do you lean towards? And you have various combinations there that you see on the screen. Pick the one that in the moment you seem to lean toward, just so we can get a general sense of that. As you're taking the poll, please keep your eye on your own paper. Don't try to look at someone else's screen to get a hint. While this is open book, you can't cheat. So if at half of your poll, give you some more time to get that other half in. Again, there's no one right answer. This is just taking your pulse. Of course, we got 10 more folks we'd love to hear from. And it looks like 14 of those are probably the CWG members present. So we're going to end that poll. And here are the results. So a lot of folks are looking at 29% looking at the full interchange, 14% are looking at half, and another 21% or 3 people are looking at the full interchange or half. So we've got, if this was the Vegas odds, we got a impression in the moment to look at that full and half, with one person thinking that the no interchange makes sense. So we'll stop. I'll stop sharing that poll and ask to go to the next set of slides. And Tom Bennett is going to sing like Tom Bennett sings, and explain these two choices for us.
Okay, thanks, Sam. I'll try and do a second hit here. Tomahawk Island Drive in the upper left. That's the interchange coming down onto that new street. The Jansen Drive on the right is the half interchange coming down onto Jansen Drive. And of course, with both of these, the other two streets that aren't mentioned in this would be more of the local access streets. And then finally, the full interchange option showing ramps coming down on both Jansen Drive and Hayden Island Drive. So both of those would have the the regional traffic volumes in addition to local traffic circulation.
All right, I appreciate that. I do want to call attention to in the chat, Eric makes a valid point. Without Marine Drive interchange, it's very difficult. It's not possible to answer this question because it's so heavily dependent on the design of Marine Drive, and the IBR teams will take that into account and try to refine that going forward. And Amy has suggested wanting to know if engineers have considered removing Marine Drive because the local access bridge is on the table now and keeping the rest. And so the IBR team can look into that as we go forward. So where we're going to land, this stuff. Let's show the poll to get your preliminary pulse reaction. Same caveats. We're going to land it in the moment. Where are you leaning? That's the best place to land this. And we understand there's lots of contingencies. That's why this will be an iterative process.
Sam, this isn't an iterative process. This is a two-step process. One is today, two is October, whatever. But it's not iterative. In 10 years ago, when we did this, we had probably 10 or 12 meetings. That's iterative.
Yep, and this again is part of the broader outreach, Tom, and we all wish it could be more robust, but it's iterative in the sense that it's teed up today. It'll be looked at again and teed up in November. So that's the best we can do given the constraints, and I appreciate the challenge. So we're going to end the poll here and just look at where we're at. So we've got 2 for Tomahawk, 2 for Jansen, 1 for either Tomahawk and Jansen, 2 for Tomahawk and Hayden Island, and 3 people are open to all 3. So again, we got a lot more refined work, and as the engineer, our engineer friend and our planning friends say, this is all interconnected. So we'll come back next time with some of these interconnections made the best we can. All right, the third issue is that Arterial Bridge. So Tom Bennett, tell us a little bit about that so we can set the stage.
Okay.
We'll close the results on the poll.
Sounds good. So this is assuming some form of interchange on Hayden Island. So there would either be a local access bridge to the west of I-5 that could either connect with Marine Drive or go underneath Marine Drive and connect with Expo Road, or a local access bridge on the east side of I-5, which would have a more direct connection with Bridgeton and the streets and the interchange, smaller interchange to the east of I-5, accessing I-5 from the east side.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Bennett. Let's show the poll. And in the moment, which local access bridge concept do you lean towards? All right, so for those who are watching live, can't see these results, we have 3 folks thinking east of I-5, 4 folks thinking west, 2 are open to either, and 5 are unsure, and we appreciate that because of the package. So what we have left to cover tonight is we've got 14 minutes. I'll need about 3 minutes to land the plane on additional engagement opportunities and next steps. So I'm going to call an audible here. I know it's not going to be perfectly satisfying to everyone, given the constraints. So could you go back a slide, please, Jennifer, and just leave it there for now is fine. What I'm going to ask you to do, and I know this is a tough job, but I'm going to give you about 8 minutes to take a moment and put in the chat, if you were the czar or the czarina of this project in the moment, and you wanted to put together these various combinations, no, full, or half interchange, and then you wanted to look at the 3 possible landing points, and then you wanted to look at the arterial bridges, east or west. If you were to put together a package, what would that look like to you? So I'm going to give you just a few minutes as opposed to people talking, because we don't have all the time available to let everyone share that. If you could just go to your chat and put in your thoughts, and we'll see what we can do by the end of our time. And so while we're doing that, we'll ask Robin's question. Have the planners and engineers driven all the current options at all times of the day? Or perhaps a broader question would be, have you had time to do any studies on demand times and levels of service times, or is that something that's coming down the road? So Brad, are you still with us, buddy?
I am thinking about how to answer that question. If that's the question, the traffic analysis will come later in this process, and we'll have lots and lots of information to be able to compare one alternative to another. But we don't have that information at this moment, but we will have it as we are getting closer to selecting which option to move forward with.
Right. Okay. You want to call a friend? Anyone else have any answers? Casey, I see you on the line.
Sam, I would just add that in addition to the data that we will collect and provide, the team is a multi-agency team. So we have experience from the city of Portland, the Port of Portland, Metro, and just on the Oregon side, and ODOT as well. So although some of us don't live necessarily in the project area, we do have experience in the area and have looked at it for quite some time and done that analysis. We do rely on those experts to help tell that story and also get the feedback from the public. So this is the right forum to experience some additional things that we don't get to see every day, because some of us don't live in that and get to experience it all days and all hours of the day. It's a good question.
Yeah, it's valuable. Thank you. And it looks like Michael is suggesting that it was Professor Plum with the candlestick in the library as the one responsible for all of this. So that's helpful. And Tom, if he was the IBR czar, he'd want traffic flow congestion data for all options, detailed drawings, not enough information or data. Design would include northbound ramp from Columbia. Depends a lot on use cases. Keep them. Those are great comments, and we'll certainly be giving you the opportunity to give more in a moment. I'd like to go to the next slides here, unless we have any further comments from the group. All right. So where are we left with here? This was an opportunity for some engagement. There's other opportunities for each of you on this particular call or meeting to attend. There's the Community Advisory Group meeting on October 7th. There's an equity advisory group meeting on October 18th. There's the executive steering group meeting on October 21st. Of course, there's the social media links, and sign up for the newsletter. And we obviously and sincerely encourage you to send those comments and emails and suggestions to info@interstatebridge.org. Again, that's info@interstatebridge.org. And as you know, today's meeting and recordings will be placed at interstatebridge.org/calendar. So interstatebridge.org/calendar. And for a deep dive into all the program information, there is a library at that same website, interstatebridge.org/library. Let's go on to the next slide, please. What happens next for this group? The Hayden Island Marine Drive Community Working Group is scheduled for October 20th. Same time, same station, 4:30 to 7. October 20th, 4:30 to 7. There, as the IBR team indicated this evening, there'll be a more in-depth review of these design options. We'll also tie in the transit access and community interaction, I like to buy a vowel, integration aspects of this particular program, and all the pieces tie together. And for our concluding slide, we want to thank you for your great conversation. We appreciate your comments on the conversation constraints. They always exist in these kinds of processes, and they are difficult. I want to particularly thank the CWG members for their patience, understanding, and the presenters for their good work, and for our two ASL interpreters. As usual, you did a most amazing job, and we're going to give you a round of applause for that. You really just knocked it out of the park. Thank you so much. So we will see all of you on October 20th. Please go forth, do good, avoid evil, and have a great evening. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Rose Festival wave, everyone. Rose Festival wave. Take care, all. And Eric, when you have a second, thanks so much. So look, it looks like based on the participant count,